I'm just walking out because I had to put on a little long sleeves out here. I am finishing up some things in the garden, but I wanted to make sure that you, first of all, saw our Black Friday special that we have. And then I also wanted to talk to you about garden pest, and just a couple of little tips, and then I will show you some things that we're growing live, how I like to grow, how we like to deal with pests. So I'll give everyone a second to come on in. I don't know what's wrong with my ear. All of a sudden, I'm sorry, y'all, all of a sudden it got stopped up. But I wanted to give you all some tips on the pest control. So I'll give everyone a couple of seconds to come on in because it's going to get dark in like no time. And y'all know, if you've been following us for a while, when it gets dark out here, honey, I give the pest, not the pest, I give the animals free range. I just ask them to be gone by in the morning. If I am texting you, that means you are on our text message list. You can feel free to unsubscribe to the text message list if you do not want to get any text for that comment that just came up. I just don't text people random. I text you if you want to be on the text message list, and I'm actually glad you put that comment in there because if you want to be notified when we're going live, when we have certain deals on, make sure you text the word "Let's Grow" to 912 430 2700. That just threw me off because if people know me and know my phone, y'all, I got like 150 something unread texts. Like, I don't text people and I don't text people randomly. That's not me. I rarely have my phone with me at times. I'm not a phone person, but that's neither here nor there. If you do want to, let me see if I could put it in the comments. If you do want to be on our text message list, then you can text the word "Let's Grow" to 912 430 2700. You see, I'm getting the key because after this live, I am about to take it on in the house. I was hoping I could put something in the chat, but normally I go on live when I'm in the house, either on my iPad. And so I'm doing this the first time on my actual phone. And so I don't know if I am able to, let's see. Honey, okay, y'all, I don't think Letitia's seen my email. I mean, my what do you call it? Hello, Growing with Jay. Let's see what the chat was because I don't think Letitia saw my. Just not okay. Okay, so I don't think Letitia saw my video maybe a few weeks ago, or maybe a month. Um, Sometimes it depends on what mood I'm in. But yeah, if you are happy, let me just tell y'all this. I appreciate everyone's support, the ones who've been rocking with me for a while now. I definitely appreciate you and just trusting in me to teach you all that I know. And then we actually teach each other. I'm going to tell you that right now. In the gardening community, I've learned so much from y'all, and I've always am willing to share anything that I know. But again, if you're on the text message list and you don't want to be on there, there's a link that says stop to opt out. So make sure that you press that. If you don't want to be a part of our gardening community, which we've changed over now to Ayana Plants, make sure you're unsubscribed. I don't want anyone to be here that does not want to be here. That's just the way I feel, and that's the way I'm feeling today. If you do not want to be here, no one's forcing you to be here. Now, what I do want to talk to y'all about today is the garden pest. So if you're not on our text message or email list, and I think I put a list out in our free group where I wanted to know where was everybody just needing like an additional information with. And so some of the things that we put were garden pests, we put seed starting, and then we also put if you just wanted to just start learning how to grow. And so the majority, I mean, it was really tight. I will tell you this, but the majority of the people said they wanted to know about garden pests. And so that was really frustrating them. Also, a lot of people sent me emails and things like that. And if that was not one of the choices that you needed help with, then make sure that you like send me an email or reach out to me, so that we can, help each other in this community. But garden pests can be frustrating. And so one of the things that I want to tell y'all is I think that we have gotten into a, let me just put it like this. So when we go to the produce section at the grocery store, oftentimes we will look at the produce and we want everything perfect. We want the perfect produce. We want the perfect, we want it perfectly round. And so when we start to grow or when we start to garden and things are not like that, or if it has some pests in there, we start to get just a little bit frustrated. It's because we're so used to seeing everything perfect. And I can remember when I was little, just for instance, during this time of the year, we would go and get like collard greens and turnips and cabbage, and things had holes in there, and things had worms on it, and things had soil attached to it. And that was okay. We washed them off, we made sure we picked them, we made sure we did all of those things, and then we kept going. But now I think so much is being done, and that's if you grow food, even herbs, and flowers. So much is being put on these plants, and so much is being done to it to not get these things to where we've just gotten used to things that are perfect. And I'm going to show y'all some examples in a minute in our garden itself. Like when I see a couple of pest holes, the way I think of it is these pest, if you want to call it, or even some of the good pollinators, even some of the good pests, they know good things when they see it. And oftentimes, when we start putting synthetic things on our plants, it's killing off the good and the bad. It does not discriminate against any of it. So, we need the good pollinators. We need help fighting off the bad pests. And so when you kill off everything, including the bees, then you don't have anything left. So we need that. So this is why we don't like to use synthetic chemicals in our garden. We try to garden as organically as possible. I really don't like to use a whole, like it's only a few things that I will use that I am comfortable with. But I think we've just gotten into that habit of just wanting everything perfect. But when you grow it, you will soon find that it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay, because what will what will happen is the taste is going to outweigh the way it looks. I guarantee you that every time. So if y'all don't hear anything else, even if you watching, if you're going to watch a little bit later and coming in, if you don't hear anything else, the main thing when it comes to garden pest is your main focus should not be on the plants. It should be on building good soil. I always tell people, think of soil as an immune system. So if you build up that soil, good soil, think of it as an immune system so that if there is a pest to attack that plant, then the immune system is built up so that they can fight off those pests or they won't take out that plant. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to have any pests, because we do, because sometimes it depends on the weather pattern for that year. Sometimes it depends on the plant variety. One thing that I have just learned by growing passion fruit this year is there is a particular caterpillar. I looked it up. I think it's Frutilla. It's a caterpillar that only likes the passion fruit leaves. And so I have never, y'all, seen this pest before. And I won't call it a pest. It's just, it just likes to eat the leaves of the passion fruit. Never seen it before. And I kept saying, what in the world is this? Looked it up, did some research on it, and it just really is only like passion flower. That's what it feeds on. So, either I'm okay. I'm personally okay with a few holes. That's fine with me. I don't have a problem with it. But you just have to keep that in mind. So it all depends. Like there are some years, depending on the weather pattern in the fall and the winter, that next spring, I will have a good year when it comes to pests, like hardly any pests. And it's other times where they just the pests get out of control. And I'm like, look at here now, we're not gonna we're not gonna do this. But that's what I wanted to tell you. So let me turn the camera around. I was going to try to put something in the chat, but I don't know if I could do it on the phone. So it's getting dark. Let me turn the camera around. So I want to show you this bed right here, okay? This bed, I'm trying broccoli rabe. And when I stayed in Italy, I've had it before. I wasn't a fan of it. And I know y'all saying, well, why are you growing it again? Well, studies show, no, seriously. So apparently every 3 years your taste buds change. So it's a lot of things that I didn't like that I like now. For example, when I was little, I did not like squash. Now I love it. Same with zucchini. So when I stayed in Italy, this was one of the popular dishes. Like if you ordered it, a lot of it, I'm used to things like collard greens and things like that, but a lot of it, you got the broccoli rabe. Now, these are just the leaves. They use the leaves, but it's going to grow broccoli, but it's going to be a smaller broccoli. It's not going to be like the head broccoli that we think of. It's a little bit different. It's like smaller, slender, and it just kind of grows out of the side shoots or something like that. But what I wanted to share with y'all, so we're growing the broccoli rabe. And so right here, I've noticed that we have something going on right here, and we have something that is going on right here. Now, a lot of people get so frustrated, and they get stressed out. And the one thing that I tell people is gardening is not supposed to be stressful at all. It's a journey, and these things happen just like life. So, but you're not supposed to get stressed out. That's not the purpose of gardening. It really relaxes me. So when I seen this, it didn't phase me not a bit, y'all. I'm like, okay, something's going on with this plant. And what I did, the first thing I did was I saw this right here, and I started looking up under the leaves, and I didn't see anything. And I will be the first to tell you, there are some pests, they scared. They don't show their face during the day. They want to come out at night. So oftentimes, if I just continue to have a pest problem that I just cannot figure out what it is, I actually have a headlamp where I will come out at night very briefly, and start looking around the plant then. But I did. I just kind of went under the leaves. I didn't see anything prevalent. And another thing that I did was I looked. So we have a total of 7 broccoli rabe plants. So I just kind of looked at all of the plants, and I noticed, okay, all of these are doing okay. And these are we started these from seeds. They were very, very tiny. And I'm like, okay, this one has just a little bit, but nothing too prevalent. So overall, it's okay. It just seems to be that plant right there where something is going on. So, again, this does not phase me because I know the different steps to take. But you always want to keep an eye on things. One thing that I have told so many people, and I will tell y'all this too. Like, oftentimes I will go and set up everything for my family, get them all set up to grow. And when I leave, the main thing I tell them is, look, you cannot, you cannot sit up here and put this plant in and just walk away and leave it alone. You are going to have to come out and you're going to have to check it. Now, when you're starting to garden, what I ask everyone is how much time. I'm going to turn the camera back around again so y'all can see me. I'll show you 2 more beds before we go, so I can also show you how I like to plant. I'm not saying you have to plant that way, but this is what I like to plant in order to just kind of confuse the pests. It's a way to confuse them. So let me turn it around. So this is what I tell my family, y'all. I always tell them, you cannot just leave that plant by itself and think it's going to take care of itself, because it's not. If you're new to gardening, you have to figure out how much time that you have to comfortably devote to gardening, because you're going to have to spend some time, but you want to make sure that it's not stressful for you. So like me, y'all, I work And so there are just certain times that I don't have enough time, especially with it dark like this. I just don't have enough time. But I try to set up a schedule to come out, look at your plants, because if you start getting into that routine, you will know very quickly if what's going on in your garden versus if you just plant it, you don't come back about a month later and you like, where the plant at? I've seen that too. So you have to really, once you figure out how much time you have to devote to gardening, that can really set you up with how much you can handle as far as growing. And those are the things that I ask family and friends when I come set them up. I'm like, how much time seriously do you think you have to devote to gardening? Because you got to think about watering, you got to think about weeding, you got to think about coming out and checking your pests, you have to think about feeding, you got to think about all of those things. So I try to get into a routine to do that. So when I came out here, I've been gone for a couple days, and every time it rains, I really have to come out and I have to check my plants for two reasons. We have a really bad snail and slug problem. And I notice every time we get a good rain, those snails and those slugs, they start acting crazy. Like, I don't know, like you never see them. And I'm wondering, how long did it take you, especially for our raised beds, how long did it take you to climb, to slither your way up here and want to start eating my plants? But that's another lie later, y'all. But that's the thing when it comes to pests. And so I'm going to put it in our community tab because I was actually going to try and check. I actually was going to try to put it in the chat, but again, the features are a little bit different, that I'm on my phone where I can't actually share the link to our pest control blueprint because that was everyone's, like, majority number one issue is trying to find an answer to these pests without getting frustrated. So we have knocked it down like a lot, y'all, because I knocked it down this low because I didn't want anyone to have to say, should I, could I? It's a very low investment that you don't even have to really think about it. Like, you like, it's a no-brainer. I got to get this because I know that this is going to help me. This is going to help me with the pest. And so not only do we have a download with all of the different type of pests and the things that we use specifically in our garden, but also other things that you can use. We have that download for that. And then it just goes like module by module showing you what to do, the different techniques that you can use when it comes to pests. And so again, after this live, I'm hoping I can put it up in the link, but I also redo it in our community tab because we put it up last night. And if you scroll down, we also have another awesome special that is for you, but it goes away Monday at 11:59 p.m. because a lot of people was like, this is such a good deal, but I didn't want anyone, it really is a no-brainer. Like, you, this is going to help you, especially with the pests, because it's all about, it really is all about a garden journey, and I just absolutely love it. Now I'm going to show you another bed, because one thing that we do when it comes to controlling pests in the garden, I don't like to plant everything in one place. I like to mix things around. So to me, I think that confuses the pest. It's also something called companion planting, where you plant different plants by each other. One of them may give off a scent that different pests don't like, so you plant them by each other. But I don't like to, like, so we got a lot of lettuce growing in different parts of the garden, but I don't have them all in one place. So that way, if we do have like a pest infestation, then it may just get one part of the garden, but it doesn't get all of it. So I'll still have like lettuce left, which that is the practice that I use. And I always like to plant vegetables, flowers, and herbs all together, so that not only because it's pretty to me, but also because of that's a good way to confuse the pests too. So let me show you this garden, and then I'll show you one more raised bed here, and I hope y'all can see it because it's getting dark. So I'm going to speed it up. So this is the raised bed that we have. Now let me go over everything with you to show you what I mean when I plant different things in different areas. So we have some thyme up here. And one thing I always say is mulch, but I tell people gardening can be as expensive or as reasonable as you make it. And so, one way I try to make it reasonable is I use this straw mulch. But let me tell you, each bag, you don't know. So, it says like 99% weed free or whatever. But what I will tell y'all is I get good batches of this, and this one right here, my friends, this is a bad batch. And it makes me so mad because you never know until you actually put it down, wait a few days, and then you'll see these little things right here popping up. And that just makes me so mad because it doesn't look good to me. And then I always think of, you are now starting to rob these plants here of potential nutrients when I put it on by it growing. So if you see that, I have been just like, I have to come out here until I think that they don't pop up anymore. So when they pop up, and that's another thing, give yourself a buffer. So if you say, I only have an hour or 2 hours a week to devote to gardening, give yourself a little buffer, because you may have an incident like this to pop up where you need, in my opinion, to come on, get them out, because I don't want these interfering with the plants that I feed. So I just come out here, and then over time, if you go ahead and get them, then they won't pop back up. But this is one of our newer beds. So let me go over it real quick, which is why I love growing vegetable, flower, and herbs together. So we got some thyme that is growing right here, and it smells really good. Then we got lettuce growing right here, and we got lettuce in other parts of the garden. We have lettuce growing in containers, but this is just a few lettuce heads right here. Now over here, that's the coneflower, is considered a perennial. It's getting cold, so it's going to die back. I've had this for like 3 years. So once I think it's like done, I'm going to cut it. I actually let it die back naturally, but then I'll come back and cut those little sticks that are sticking up. Those were the blooms were this summer, but I let it die back naturally. Then I'll come and cut the sticks, and it'll just kind of go down. And then come spring, it'll emerge back up from the soil. So here we have some of the purple kale that's growing right here. And then right here we have snapdragons. This is like a variety color mix. I think it gets like 2 to 3 feet tall, but I thought that was a good interest to have in the garden. So we got some that are starting to bloom here. And then we have the onions right here. And what makes it really, really difficult for me with these onions is I have to like look at the rows, because you have these that are popping up, and I don't want to mistakenly say pull it and then it's an onion. But I think I'm okay. Um, I think I'm okay. But see, like right here, I got to be really careful because these are still young onions. So I have to be careful and not pull up the onion thinking it's the straw coming out of here. So that is one thing I do when it comes to pest control. I never plant all of one plant in one place. I like to mix them all around in the garden. Now, I also want to show you another example if you all have been following us, and make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new, because we just kind of want to take you along and give you different tips. But before it gets dark, I really want to stay out here. I've planted garlic, and it's some animal that has dug it up, and it's very saddening that they did that to me, and I'm really upset about I'm really upset about it. And then they dug up some other things, and I know why they did it is because I use a fish and seaweed fertilizer, and it does stink. Someone had asked, is there some type of organic fertilizer you could use that does not have a smell? Because they actually had animals, and their animals went crazy, and I have not found one that did not have a smell. So if you know of one, put it in the comments. But I know why they do it. The fish and seaweed fertilizer, it does have a smell. It's not a pleasant smell, so I guess it's something. And so they dug up my garlic, and I was highly upset about that, because it's like garlic cloves randomly, and I strategically had them placed out. But let me show you the last bed. If you're just joining us, I'll tell you again about the Pest Control Blueprint Black Friday special that we're having. That will be up until 11:59 p.m. Monday, Eastern Standard Time. And if I can't get it in the link after the live, I will put it in the community tab. But I do want to show you this because I feel some sprinkles, y'all. feel sprinkles. Okay, so this is our other bed. And again, if you've been following us, you've been seeing this, but we had a really awesome rain last night. And so every time it rains, I love rainwater. Rainwater pulls nutrients out of the air, it puts them in the soil, and it just makes everything grow. So if you ever see how things just take off and grow after it rains, it's just amazing. Like, I prefer rainwater over everything, which is why we recently got a rain barrel to collect the rainwater, so that we can use that. But so this is another mixed bed here, and we do this a little bit for aesthetics, but also to help with pests as well. But what I have to do, and we're actually going to have mustard greens tomorrow. These are the Florida broadleaf mustards. We're going to have these tomorrow for dinner because if y'all can see how big, can you see how big these leaves are? It's just my husband and I don't, when I grow a lot of leafy greens kind of at the beginning of the season, I don't harvest the whole plant. What I do is I do what's called leafing off. So that means I'm pulling the outer leaves and then I'm leaving these ones here to continue on to grow. So we'll pull some of the big outer leaves, but I definitely want to go ahead and harvest this one because it is shielding the light from my time. And then we have some pansies that are growing right here that is shielding the light from. So I know I'm going to be taking this one because it's shielding this one under here. We're going to take this one, and then this one because they're all shielding those plants. And then we got this side where it's kind of growing over. So we'll be taking all of that. And then back here, we're also going to go ahead and harvest some of these back leaves because we have more onions. You see how I'm mixing it up? So I had onions in the last bed I just showed you. So I got onions over here. So I don't put everything all, like I could have planted this whole bed, nothing but onions, but I don't like to do that just because that's kind of like an extra buffer for me. If I do have any type of pest, okay, well, at least all of the onions aren't like wiped out. So we have onions right here, we have carrots, and we have carrots also in another part of the garden that's growing, and then we have some garlic chives. And the garlic chives kind of gives off a scent to help with pests for these carrots right here. So that's how we just kind of help with the different pests in the garden, is we want to confuse them. And see, once again, I got a couple of holes that are in here, but I'm not really worried about it. I've looked under the leaves and kind of checked, and oftentimes, again, if you're just joining us, I notice that we get a lot of pests after a lot of rain. They just kind of come out. And then here in coastal Georgia, it's still we had a semi, I'm not going to call it a semi frost, it was a little frost, so it got down to like 31 degrees, between 30 and 31 degrees for like 2 hours last week. So we was actually out here filming a video to have for you hopefully in the next week, where some of that frost took out some of our floss flowers. And so we're going to replant that with some pansies. But it did get a little bit cool here. And so I don't know where I was going with that, y'all. I don't even know where I was going with it. But we did have a frost, and it took out some of the oh, that's where I was going with it. So like today it was in the 60s, so we still have a lot of moths that lay those cabbage loppers and different some of the different army worms. Like, we still have those flying around here. Let me turn the camera around. So we still have those flying around here that are laying eggs on our plants. Normally when it gets like really really cold, they'll die down. Sometimes they will kind of overwinter in the soil, and then in the spring, they'll emerge, but I still see all of these little moths laying eggs everywhere. And so sometimes that can be a potential problem. But that's why I say, when it comes to pests, don't let it frustrate you whatsoever. Like, just don't let it. It is It is frustrating, but don't let it get you frustrated, because sometimes I'll tell y'all right now. Sometimes I walk out here and I'm like, okay, what is really going on? But I don't get frustrated to where I'm just, you know what, I'm not gonna garden. Oftentimes, that's why I tell y'all to have a garden journal, because when it gets a little bit colder for me and it's not much to do in the garden, because the colder it gets, some of the plants will kind of slow down, because we're getting less light now during the day. So I sometimes, like when I'm gonna go inside after I've worked in the garden for a few hours during the day, what I will do is go in and I will write in my journal, like, you know what, this for the month of November, I still saw moths flying around. They laid something on here, or we had a bad problem with aphids this season. I'll write things like that. And I also write what type of plant it was too, because they do sell varieties of plants that you can plant in your garden that can be where they have like a resistance or a tolerance to a certain plant, certain type pest or a certain type disease. So a lot of the different plants now, you'll see it says resistance to, whatever may be something common. So you can also think about that too. But there are steps to controlling pests. What I will tell you is that it will happen. If it doesn't, congratulations. That's great. But most of the time, it will happen. But you don't get frustrated and you don't say, you know what, I'm finna stop growing. This is not working. And that's what happened to actually one of my family members, where their squash, y'all know how I am with squash. Squash is one of those ones where I'm going to figure out a way to grow that successfully. I'll always start out good, and then the squash vine borers will get me, and so oftentimes I have to start over, or I just get a few squash and then I have to start a new plant. But I don't say, you know what, I'm gonna close up the gardening shop. Like, I've came too far from where I've started to do that. And then, like I tell people, I guarantee you, the taste of those mustards that I just showed you, they're going to outweigh that little hole that I just showed you in there as well. Like, you're only walking a few steps to go in and experience freshness. And then also, you know exactly what you have done to that plant. Like I tell people, unless somebody came in when I was gone, or unless somebody flew over and put something on there, I know exactly what I've did to the plant. Like, I've nurtured that plant. Most of the things that we've started in the garden, we do start from seed, but sometimes I do get instant gratification and I'll see a plant and I'm like, I gotta have it. So we do a little bit of both. And either one is totally fine with what you want to do, because sometimes some plants can get a little finicky when you start seeds, but we try to start them in enough time. And we also, if you go to that special that I'm talking about, the pest control blueprint special, after the live, I'll put it in the link. We actually have another little bonus special for you that you can also take advantage of, for our Black Friday special. But I'm going to sign off because I got to figure out what what pulled up my garlic. Like, I'm when I tell y'all I came out here, I was so pissed. I was pissed because I'm like, what is going on? But I actually put, for the garlic, we use, I always have to think about the color, bone meal, because bone meal helps bulb up your garlic and your onions. And then we actually use some blood meal for some of our leafy greens, and it's organic, so it doesn't have a good smell. So I know why they're coming in. I just don't like them to go digging like that. Like, that really makes me mad when they start digging. But it's okay. I tried to put the garlic bulbs back the best I could. I should have actually, and I may do that tomorrow, is I have a piece of wire that I always use when I plant my tulips, that I just kind of put down in there, so nothing, like the squirrels, none of that can get to it. So I may just go out there and do that again so that they can get to it. It's starting to sprinkle a little bit, so I'm going to get up under here. But again, I'm going to put that link in the I'm going to put the link in the description. So I'm going to let this video render, and then I'm going to put that link in there. But just think about those tips. So number one, you want to build healthy soil. So if you don't hear anything else I said, healthy soil is going to be the key to helping fight off pests. Don't get so caught up with things having to be perfect, because I think we've just been programmed for when we go to the produce, everything has to be perfect. It has to be the perfect shape. You will start seeing as you're growing your garden, some things are going to be irregular. Some things are not going to grow like you see in the grocery stores, but the taste is going to outweigh everything. And then also, like I've showed you, kind of intermix your plants together to kind of confuse pests. So that way, you don't plant everything together. So if you do have a pest problem, maybe they'll stay over there and won't bother the other. You know what I mean? So I hope you all have a good weekend. Let me go ahead and let this video render. Check back in a few minutes. And look for the link, but also I'll put it, it's in my community tab, but I'll put it in there again so it can like redo. And if you have any questions, or if there's something that I haven't talked about and you want to learn about or know about, make sure you reach out to me, either email or send me a message. You have a good night. Also, Growing with Jay. You all be safe and have a good weekend, and we'll talk again soon. Bye, y'all.